What's up, guys, and thank you for tuning in to episode 3 on the TVS Cobra. Now, we're gonna call this a deja vu episode because I promise you, you are not watching episode 2 over again. So let's recap the issues that we have with the TVS car. It is now at the shop, on the lift, new scenery, same old job. So as you see, everything is taken back off of this car. The blower is off. Now we have the EGR delete plate from VMP on it. That's about the only change on the blower. And we got all the parts to get it back together on the shelf again. Now I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, Nick, I watched you do this already 2 weeks ago on the same car. What gives? This is once again, a VMP swap car. It used to have a ProCharger F1 on it, and they took it off. Well, when the ProCharger Mach 1 was, when the ProCharger was on it, it had a Mach 1 timing cover. Now, the Mach 1 has a different bolt pattern than a Cobra timing cover, and not a very big difference. It's only one bolt that is different, and it is one bolt that made quite the mess. To give you a reference, it's this bolt right here. On a Mach 1 or a naturally aspirated 4 valve, such as a Navigator engine or anything else other than the Cobra, this bolt is moved over and down about 3/4 of an inch both ways to put a bolt right here. Now, after doing some extensive research on the subject, I've noticed that a lot of people either just fill the hole with silicone, just kind of forget about it, that there was even a bolt there in the first place, make sure it seals up really well, and they run it just like that. A lot of people don't have problems with that. This one, however, has been modified. So when we removed that bolt, when we were taking the timing cover off, there was coolant coming out of it. And we're like, this is very strange. How come all of the other holes in the timing cover are blind except for this one? So when we put the new timing cover back on, we put the bolt in, put some RTV on the threads thinking that it was gonna leak, or we wanted to avoid it leaking, and put it all back together. You saw it, nearly finished. We took it to John Galway. We left it at his shop. We filled it with coolant while it was there. There were some miscellaneous parts that we were missing. And while it sat overnight with the overflow tank full of fluid, he came back the next day and there's antifreeze on the ground. So it started our saga of tearing it back apart. So we watched the video, so I'm glad we kind of took the vlog of it. We watched the video and there were those two holes that were right next to each other. Now John also has a texted block sitting on the shelf, which has two holes, and his were the opposite. One goes into the water jacket on our block, was not the one that was leaking when we took it apart, and the other one did go into the water jacket, which was strange. So after doing some more research, it turns out that the Cobra block has a different provision for that bolt, and that some people will drill it once they install the timing cover, or mark it, drill it, and be able to use both timing covers. This car was the case. And since we went back to the Cobra timing cover, that hole was left exposed and the seal sits right along it. So good thing we didn't run it. We never started it with coolant in it. It was all good to go. However, when we filled it with coolant, it was leaking both into the crankcase and out of the top of the timing cover, which resulted in us doing this whole job over again. Gotta learn somehow, I guess. So this is, I mean, I'm not sure if I even want to share this with you guys, but I'm just being honest. This is the shit that happens. So we did all the work on it, and now we had to do nearly the identical job again. But we're already back on the come up. The valve covers and timing cover are back on. I'll show you guys some pictures right now where you can see the two holes that are drilled, and also how we fixed it. What we ended up doing, you can see right here, is we made a plug that uses the same thread pitch as the timing cover does, made a plug out of it, and we used some marine JB weld, epoxy. We really cleaned the threads really well on both the plug and the block, used some epoxy, screwed the piece in it, and then topped it off with epoxy. I have no worries at all that that's gonna work. It's gonna be 100% okay, and now it's gonna go back together. So now that it's epoxied, we did put some extra RTV at that point in the valve cover as well. So when the valve cover tightened up, it pushed out some RTV around that area, so I know for sure it's sealed. Now we're just putting it all back to where it was. However, this time, this was just a ploy to make sure that we get to start it and run it on the channel, because now we have everything to finish it, and we don't need to worry about John finishing it. So I guess there is some positive out of this, is that this car is going to run and drive out of our shop to take it over back to John's to tune it. So I will likely cut this video short here, as you've seen it done already. I'm not going to show you how I put it all back together. Tune back into the episode number 2, which is right here, showing us the step-by-step of how we did all this. But I'll show you guys it finished and all done, so you guys can bask in the same glory that we are. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is our 03 VMP build, and we're sorry to have to bring this to you, but it's done and it's fixed and it's almost there, and it's gonna be running here in the next week. So see you guys shortly. All right, now one positive thing about doing this the second time on the lift is we can give you a little bit different view than we were able to the first time. I'm trying to get everything buttoned up down low, so I got the 6-rib belt hanging in here in order to get the Metco idler on it. So we got the Metco idler, Metco stock size lower, but it's still the Metco kit, so we can go bigger if he decides to go E85 or race fuel. Alternators mounted up. All the bracketry's down there. Top bolts for the alternator still loose, I'll get that up top. But everything's tight down here, timing cover's tight down here. And ready to move on to the top half of the project. It always seems to go smoother when you're doing it a second time. So, blower's back on the car. Inlet's on and tight, fuel rails are in and tight, vacuum lines are ran and done. John doesn't use the fuel pressure rail sensor, so he'll eventually get a block off plate, so that's why that's just hanging out there in the open. Coolant temp sensor's back plugged in. We redid the wiring on it last time. But it's really close, getting really close. I gotta tighten this top alternator bolt, and that'll kind of tighten up be done with the 6-rib. I left this tensioner pulley at John's shop. So right now I'm actually taking the opportunity to take a break, and I'm gonna break into John's shop, find that tensioner pulley that I probably left on its bench. But once I get that, the 6-rib part can be done, and then I can put the bridge on it, and I can finish the 8-rib stuff. So while I'm at John's, I'll probably steal his belt so I can see if I can make a belt work, because I'm going to finish this tonight. This is gonna be done tonight, aside from oil, because it needs oil, but that'll be done next time. So I'm gonna run to John's shop. I will be right back. I'll get you guys another update when it's all said and done. Good evening. It's almost done. It's almost finished. Even happen to have a belt that fits for the blower. I had the intercooler tank on, I just took it off because the wiring for the fan was butt connected and the butt connectors were burned, so I just soldered them, so it was good. I'm gonna zip tie it back to where it was to get that kind of finished. And then this is also going to get soldered. As you can see, that's a ground power, and then that's just a hot power. So that's not good. So we're going to modify that. And solder these connections. But after that, I'm going to put the intercooler tank and the overflow tank on, and get a tune from John tomorrow, and hopefully start this thing up maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. Get it out of here. Well, she's done, so I'll give you guys one last look under the hood before the hood goes on and before we come and start it tomorrow. Now there's the whole intake track is pretty much going to change. Throttle body, elbows probably going to get changed to the GT500 adapter one. He's got a GT500 throttle body, and then he'll have to get a new inlet mass airflow sensor as well. So that's all kind of temporary just to get the car running. It's got my fingerprints all over it, so now it's got to get wiped down. But I got the tuner out of the car. I'm gonna go drop this off to John's shop on my way home so he gets a load of flash in it. The battery seems to be toast, so I'm gonna bring the jumper pack tomorrow along with picking up the tuner, and hopefully we can get it to fire up. But hopefully this is the last time that we are taking the whole engine apart on this thing. It's been fun doing it twice, but you're always faster the second time, so it only took me one day this time. But we'll see you guys next time. Subscribe down below. If you guys haven't checked out any of the other videos on the channel, do so. We have a lot of different projects in and out of here already. Unfortunately, this one came back, but it hasn't ran yet, so it doesn't really count. but it should be good now. So we'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.